Celebration remembering the life of Mr. Randy Caldwell, age 65, will be Monday at 11 o'clock in Curtis and Son North, with Mark Atkins officiating. Curtis and Son Funeral Home, North Chapel, directing. Mr. Robert Duffy died at his residence here in Sylacauga last night. Curtis and Son Funeral Home, North Chapel, announcing the arrangements. Mr. Luther C. Bearden Jr. died at his residence on June the 17th. And funeral service will be held Saturday at 11 o'clock in Curtis and Son North, with the Reverend Michael Frost officiating, burial in the Evergreen Cemetery. Visitation is tonight, 5 until 8 at the funeral home. Curtis and Son Funeral Home, North Chapel, directing. Funeral service for Donna Luna Dickey, age 86, of Sylacauga, Saturday at noon from Radley Smith Funeral Home, with Father Frank Young officiating, burial in the Evergreen Cemetery. Ms. Dickey died Wednesday, June 16th at Coosa Valley Medical Center. Visitation Saturday, 11 until noon at the funeral home, Radley Smith Funeral Home in Sylacauga, in charge of the arrangements. And Ms. Dickey was a member of the St. Andrew's Episcopal Church in Sylacauga. Mr. Daniel Harris of Sylacauga, funeral arrangements to have been announced by Grace Memorial Funeral Home in Sylacauga. And visitation for Ms. Barbara Harris of Winterboro will be today, 2 till 7 at the funeral home, with a funeral service on Saturday at 2 o'clock from Africa Baptist Church in Talladega. Grace Memorial Chapel Funeral Home directing. Celebration remembering the life of Elijah Borden Jr., age 74, of Talladega, is today at 11 o'clock from S.M. Goodson Funeral Home Chapel. S.M. Goodson Funeral Home and Crematory in Talladega directing. Celebration remembering the life of Mr. Derek Pumpkin Cunningham, age 49, of Talladega, will be Saturday at 11 o'clock from S.M. Goodson Funeral Home Chapel. Pastor Darrell Cunningham officiating. Public viewing is today, 3 until 8 at the funeral home. S.M. Goodson Funeral Home and Crematory directing. Celebration remembering the life of Mr. Dwight Malden, age 60, of Lincoln, is Saturday at 1 o'clock from St. Mary Baptist Church, with Pastor Curie Embry officiating. Interment in the First Baptist Church Cemetery in Cropwell. Public viewing is today, 1 until 6 at the funeral home. S.M. Goodson Funeral Home directing. Graveside service for Malcolm Derrick Jemison will be today at noon from Evergreen Cemetery in Sylacauga. Visitation this morning prior to the service at Community Funeral Home from 11 until 11:30. Community Funeral Home directing. Funeral service for Derek Averett will be Saturday at 1 p.m. from Liberty Christian Center in Harpersville. Burial in the New Hope Baptist Church Cemetery in Sylacauga. Visitation for Derek will be today, 1 until 7 o'clock at the funeral home. Community Funeral Home directing. Funeral service for Mrs. Louise Harry Phillips, age 96, is today at 11 o'clock from New Site United Methodist Church. Reverend Paul Vick officiating. Burial in the Bethlehem New Salem Cemetery. The family receiving friends today, 9:30 till 10:30 at the church. In lieu of flowers, memorials can be made to the New Site United Methodist Church or to one's church in her memory. Radley Funeral Home directing. Graveside service for Marcus Odom of Goodwater is 1 o'clock Saturday at Macedonia Memorial Gardens. Wright's Funeral Home directing. Funeral service for Mrs. Myrtle Winslet, age 90, of Alexander City, is today at 1 o'clock from Orr Street Baptist Church in Alexander City. The Reverend Sarah Shelton and the Reverend Turk Holt officiating. Burial in the Hillview Memorial Park. The body will lie in state at the church from 11:30 until service time. Radley Funeral Home, Alexander City directing. And funeral service for Mr. Edwin William Bill Hildebrand, age 82, of Pell City, will be today at 2 o'clock from Ursery Funeral Home in Pell City. Family receiving friends 1 until 2 at the funeral home. Ursery Funeral Home, Pell City directing. And funeral service for Laura Andrzejewski, who died June the 9th at a residence in Sylacauga. There will be a graveside service on June 23rd in McKenzie-Port, Pennsylvania. Radley Smith Funeral Home in Sylacauga handling the local arrangements. In lieu of flowers, donation can be sent to Farm Ministries, 35 Pebble Point, Sylacauga, Alabama, 35151. This obituary report this morning brought to you by Curtis and Son Funeral Home, Sylacauga, Childersburg.